Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Early Morning Core. I'm your host, Tristan, and today we're going to be covering Wolf Creek. I'm so fucking excited to cover this movie. God, I love this movie. Me and my wife love this movie. We love the second movie. We love the TV series. All of it. Okay. Mick Taylor, one of my favorite slasher villains of all time, if not my favorite. Okay, he is just unique in himself and it works so good. But I wrote down the notes for this movie, okay? And I took so long. It spanned me between Tuesday and I think I got done taking notes yesterday because it was like 30 minutes would be an hour and a half of note taking for me because I'm writing them down and I'm pausing so often and rewinding, and I've got the closed captions so I can read exactly what's being said so that way I can get. I think I wrote down every bit of dialogue Mick Taylor has, which is not too much because he doesn't come in until like 37 minutes in or something. But like I said, I'm very excited to cover this movie. Okay. And I hope that you guys, all of you, are ready to join me through it. All right, so grab your energy drink, grab your coffee, whatever you need. And also get ready to hear a really bad Australian accent from me. So, all right. Uh, the movie starts off with like a couple messages popping up saying that this is based on actual events and 30,000 people are reported missing every year. 90% are found within a month. Some are never seen again. We start off with the beach, seeing some of the waves, and then cut to a guy buying a car, and this guy's name is Ben, and the salesman is basically saying they get real easy when they travel, talking about two of the ladies that Ben is taking around. I said, luckily, Ben drives off and calls him a fat fuck and a tool. So that kind of gives you the sense that Ben's a pretty decent guy. Now we are seeing him with some Yep mechanic. And when I say a Yep mechanic, it's because there's like this bit where the mechanic is like, yep, 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 talking about like giving the car some gas because Ben is getting some diagnostics done or whatever. Like he does not want to break down in this thing, especially with the car that costs like $500. So, but we cut to the two women on the beach, and they're talking about how he likes Liz. Yeah. And then not long after, he pulls up and okay, it is a $1,500 car. I got it wrong. He pulls up in a $1,500 car and gets their stuff in and asks about the booze. When I think it's Christy that says they are never drinking again, and we've got to get an early start if we want to get to Wolf Creek by tomorrow night. And Liz says, how much more of an organization Nazi is she? Ben says, no, she's right. In bed by 9:30. I do like these people, okay? I like people that can joke around like this. It's very refreshing to see. Cut to them at this party, and they're taking shots, and they're jumping in the pool, and they're smoking. They're having a fun time. Then cut to morning, and Ben and Christy are in bed together, but they're like Ben's feet are next to Christy's head, and Christy's feet are next to Ben's head. So, can kind of infer nothing happened there. And then we see Liz wake up, and she's on the beach with a few, like, strangers, I guess, a few people from the party. And then she runs into the ocean. But they, pretty soon after, they strap everything up, and then they start driving on a road trip. Because it's quite literally a road trip montage, if I've ever seen it. I loved it. But they seem to be having a good time together. And we get to listen to Ben's guitar skills as well, which is refreshing. I do like hearing, somebody play the guitar, especially on a road trip. My God, I gotta use my flashlight to read this. Okay. And they sing and they make fun of him. But cut to nighttime, and they are around a campfire, and he's telling this UFO story about, like, Wolf Creek, I think. And one girl says, bullshit. That might have been Christy. That sounds like Christy. She says bullshit, and then cut to morning, and they pack up, and they get back on the road, and the girl driving sees a sign that says Emu Creek, last gas for 500 kilometers. I hope I read that correctly. So she makes a stop, and they all get out. One girl is walking around, which was Christy. Christy's walking around, she's smoking, she's looking at stuff. And the other is in the bathroom. And Ben pulls out a camera, starts recording. And the attendant at the gas station, like, kind of sneaks up. But he shows up to top off Ben's gas and say hi. And that's when Christy tells the guy that someone has a crush on him. Well, tells Ben that somebody has a crush on him. And he's like, oh yeah, the attendant. Yeah, he's got a crush on me. But then she's like, no, that's not who I'm talking about at all. And she says, if you do anything to hurt her, I'll kill you. Wait, yeah. If you hurt her, I will kill you. And then we get to see some disgusting dudes that are very sweaty. They are customers, and they're inside, and they are talking about the women. And one calls over Ben, and they ask if his girlfriends would be interested in a gangbang. And I wrote down, knock that motherfucker out. He was already sitting down, dude. Like, he could have just, like, started swinging. He'd have to get up first. I mean, and if you just, like, swing on him, he falls back, hop on top of him, ground and pound. I mean, but no, seriously, like, this dude had a height advantage, reach, size, everything. Like, it just, and you're outnumbered. So, chances of you getting jumped or a knife getting pulled out on you, yeah. And I said, but the guys start laughing, and one says, just wanted to check with you first. And Ben says, good on you, fuckhead. And then the guy stops laughing and gets up and asks him, what'd he say? And Ben says, I said that's a nice smile you got. And he does smile, and he's got, like, a missing tooth. But his friends laughed at him for that, so. But they leave, and Ben says, I should have Tai Chi'd his ass. I do love this group. And they laugh. They are not that far away when I keep saying one girl because I guess I don't know if they'd never mention their names up to Like, not that long later, like, I had to use the closed captions to get their names. But one girl says she hopes it doesn't rain. I'm going to say that might have been Liz. And Ben says it's going to be cold tonight. But they arrive at Wolf Creek Crater, which is 3 hours of walking, no camping, and no fire allowed. Want to say it's Christy gets out, then Ben, then Liz. And Ben picks up an animal skull. Because there's just some animal skull that's sitting like right beside the sign. But they grab some umbrellas and food. And they head off. This crater was made by a meteorite, and they get to the top and they get to admire it. Starts raining, but of course, luckily they got umbrellas. And Liz gets up and walks away. She hikes somewhere, and Ben and Christy are kind of just sitting there chilling for a minute, and then Ben gets up and catches up with her and sits with her, and they kiss, and they make out a little bit. And then they laugh because it seemed like it took so long and was so difficult, but they both wanted it. They all get back and they put on some layers, because it is getting colder, it's getting darker. And for some reason, their watches stopped. They get in to leave, but the car won't start. Ben tells her to pop the hood, might be the battery terminals. But he doesn't know what he's looking for, which Christy calls him out on. It's now nighttime, and he's pretending his flashlight is a lightsaber, because valid. I mean, if you're bored out of your mind, and it's dark, and it's cold, keep yourself entertained. Ben is saying aliens because their watches stopped, and the car stopped working. And when aliens are around, stuff stops working. Which is weird, because why would the flashlight work? But then they see lights and they start panicking. I mean, because it's dark outside. It's kind of, I think it's still a little rainy, dewy, whatever you want to call it. They start panicking because they're thinking this is aliens. Until they realize it's a car. They get out to meet the driver. And then they shine a light at him. And here, please forgive me, any Australians that may be listening. What in the bloody hell are you doing out here? Oh God, I messed up the line already. What in the bloody hell are you mob doing out here? Scared the shit out of me. This is 37 minutes into the movie when Mick Taylor finally says his first line. Well, John Gerard says his first line as Mick Taylor. And then they start laughing. And they said, we thought it was aliens. Well, she did, and pointed at Christy. It was raining down earlier. Oh God, that was British more than Australian. I'm so sorry. I should just stop. It was raining down earlier. I was about to chuck it in. Lucky for you, mob. Mick is trying to get the spark plug and ask where they are headed, and then asks if the two ladies are British by saying, British are yous. I wish I could do his accent so much. And they say yes, but Ben is an Aussie, and Mick says, yeah? Where are you from, mate? And he says, Sydney. And Mick goes, Poof, the capital of Australia. because Mick does this thing where he chuckles at his own jokes. Well, he just chuckles a lot in general. And I wrote down every time he does it, so I can do it too. Just playing with you, Tiger. Never been over there myself. Lucky you Sheilas are traveling with a bloke. Can never be too careful. And then Mick makes the battery spark to check it. He's like, yep, battery works. And that kind of gets a laugh out of him. But the three are talking away from Mick, and they're talking about how Mick is like Crocodile Dundee. And when Mick comes back and says, your coil's a root cactus, you're going nowhere. Can take the old one out, put the new one in, Bob's your sister. Love that saying. Even though it isn't like the British version, like Bob's your uncle. I don't know. But love these sayings. He's got the gear to do it at camp, which is down the road a ways. Fix it up and have him back on the road in the morning. Mick starts to put his stuff away, and the three say they can't pay him, so are wondering... Oh, about to drop my book. Oh, technical difficulties. Alright. So they're wondering if he can tow him back to town, and they send Ben to ask, because of course, since Ben's an Australian man, Ben asks, and Mick says he'd like to help, but if they don't want to lift, that's up to them. He's headed south. And when Ben says, south? Mick says, yeah, I'm headed south. You're trying to go north. With that coil and stuff, how much would that... Oh, this is Ben's line right here. With that coil and stuff, how much would that cost? Say if we just got you to do that? And Mick goes, it's not fucking Pitt Street, mate. Of course I'm not going to charge you, stupid bastard. And he calls out to the ladies and says, you hear that? How much? And he messes with Ben, like putting his hands up and does like the little duck and weave type motion like a boxer. And he's like, yeah, Muse, but Jesus out of me. And cut to them on the road, and they proceed to drive for hours to get to camp. They eventually arrive at an abandoned... flipping the page. At an abandoned mine, and the sun is rising. Mick gives them water out of his jug. I should go ahead and say, like, the hours of them driving is quite literally hours. I mean, they were on the road for so fucking long. And apparently this is kind of expected from Australian men that are kind of like outdoors type guys, where they say down the road a ways could usually mean hours. But I wouldn't know. But the sun's rising, and Mike gives them water out of his jug. Nothing like rainwater from the top end. Got lost in a 6-month dust storm back in the 40s. Talking about his camp, how he found it, and how people would get lost on their own property. But he talks about what he used to do for work after one of the ladies asks. And he says he used to work as a head shooter on one of the big properties. Mick tells us about how they could take out 50 buffalo in an afternoon. I wore out 5 bolts on a 303 one year. And then Ben asks where he lives. And Mick tells a sad story of a dog getting its head ripped off. And Mick says he gets around and never know where he might pop up. Kind of like Boogeyman sounding, if anything. But Ben says he must love the freedom and gets to cruise around the bush saying cool stuff like, that's not a knife. This is a knife. And Mick is staring at him for an uncomfortably long time. And he looks mad or annoyed with him. Uh, but he's staring at Ben like this, and the girls are laughing a little bit. And then Mick kind of made a little awkward or uncomfortable. And Ben asks, what does he actually do now? And Mick says, I'd tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. And Liz asks if he actually shoots kangaroos, and he says he's doing the people a favor by taking a few out all over like tourists. And they all laugh. Liz and Ben burp after Mick burps. And then Mick says, your turn, to Liz. And she nods no before Ben farts. Then Mick decides to start working on the car. And Liz checks Ben for his joke because he's like, this guy's doing us a favor, and I don't think he appreciates you making jokes with him or about him. But then Liz goes to thank Mick, and then we see the three of them fall asleep. Ben falls asleep in the chair. Liz and Chrissy, they fall asleep on the ground. But Liz wakes up gagged and tied up, and the sun is up, but she is in like the shed. And she starts to panic, and then she starts sobbing. But then she finds a piece of broken glass to cut her restraints. She manages to escape the shed, and it's nighttime again. She sneaks over to the car, but Mick has taken it apart. Okay, before I go on further, yes, the water jug was drugged. This is not the only time that he has done this. He also did it in the Wolf Creek TV series, and later on in the movie it's going to show that he also gave water to another, like one of his victims. I will say this. Do not accept stuff from a stranger who is giving you everything for free, okay? I would personally just be like, no, thank you. Especially when I don't see the motherfucker drink from it himself. But a little bit of a safety lesson right there to avoid getting drugged from a stranger is don't drink something a stranger gives you. But yes, she manages to escape the shed, and it's nighttime again. She sneaks over to the car, but Mick has completely taken it apart, like anything in the hood, or under the hood, I should say. But Liz is sneaking around after hearing Christy scream. She sneaks to a spot that she can see inside the building Christy is in and sees Mick loading a small caliber rifle. And Christy standing up bloody and tied up. Mick isn't wearing his flannel and he is smoking. While Christy is begging for her life, Mick aims the rifle at her, then yells, "Bang!" and laughs. Well, nothing happens when the bolt's open, you see. He then closes the bolt. We hear it close and then chamber around, and he shoots around, causing Chrissy to scream more. And Mick laughs and says, "The look on your fucking face." Christy keeps begging, and Mick says, "I always use rubber with you. See you next Tuesdays. I don't know where you been." While Christy is crying, Mick is rubbing himself, like he's rubbing the outside of his jeans. It's fucking disturbing. Because it really does put the... it kind of guarantees what type of satisfaction he gets from this. But Liz decides to circle somewhere else to get a different view into the building, and Mick says, "Off with your little pinky." And Liz goes and grabs some flammable liquid and matches and lights the car on fire and then tosses a gas camp lamp in the fire. Like it's one of those camp lamps where you use gas to fuel it. I don't know if you've ever had one, but they're neat for sure. But it causes an explosion. Mick steps out and says, Jesus Christ, rule number 1 is put out the fire. And Mick seems like a little suspicious because he starts looking at the building that Liz was in, but seems to dismiss the thought. Liz goes in to where Christy is and tells her to shh and ask where Ben is. Luckily, Mick is busy with the fire, but he comes back and says, "Now, a man's a real goose, eh? Sorry. I mean, it took 4 hours to get those parts out of your car, right? Now the bastard thing's all burned. What do you think of that?" And Christy is crying in response. Mick sets down his rifle and pulls out his Bowie and says, "Let's play, eh?" He cuts her free and grinds on her face and keeps saying, "You like to play, eh?" And then points out what's left of a person hanging up and says, "That stupid bitch, she loved it. While she lasted a few good months, we were great together. Till she lost her head. How about I cut your tits off? You're all the same, you four, and see you next Tuesdays. Weak as piss." He then hears the rifle load, and Christy starts laughing at him. I love Christy for this. Like, Christy, the actress for Christy, does such a good fucking job. Because she spends so much time in this movie being scared, horrified, screaming, you name it, she's doing it. I love it. Okay. When you watch it and then you really think, oh, well, you know, she had to keep this up. And it's exhausting to act terrified, I'm sure. But she also does this where, like, as soon as she thinks that Mick has been bested, she starts laughing at him. But Chris starts laughing, and Liz is shaking and has tears in her eyes. "Now, how the hell you get out? You're wasting your time, eh? It's not loaded. I only loaded one in the pipe." And Liz says, "Let her go. Now." He does. She drops to the ground and says, "A rifle in the wrong hands is dangerous. So give me the fucking..." And bang. And Liz shoots Mick in the neck, and he drops. Christy's gagged and keeps saying, "Kill him, kill him, kill him." And Liz keeps cocking the rifle, but there are no more rounds left. So she grabs it from the barrel to kind of use it like a baseball bat or a club, and then hits Mick in the back twice. And this is a real rifle, and this is really John Jarratt taking these hits. She's actually hitting him twice in the back with a real rifle. What a guy. But Liz gets Christy's pants and helps put them on. And then Christy and Liz get in his truck, but they don't have the fucking keys. So Liz runs back in and grabs them and cranks up the truck in time to see Mick open the door with a double barrel shotgun. He's got like one hand on his neck and the other hand is holding the shotgun. He shoots the first round into the windshield, making them both duck. It kind of makes the glass get cracked all over. And then as soon as he sees them kind of start to sit up, he waits a second and then puts in the other shot through the windshield, causing it to completely shatter. He starts to reload, but Liz, as beautiful as she is, puts it in drive and starts to drive into the building, trying to run Mick over. Gotta love that. But she backs up and she starts driving out of there. But she looks back and sees that Mick is now following them, and they almost drive off a cliff. Like they're right there at the cliff's edge because it's dark out. When the lights keep shining in their face and everything, it's bad. So they get out, take the keys, leave the lights on, and they push the truck off. So it kind of goes over the cliff a little bit. Liz and Christy start to slowly go down the cliff trying to hide. And Mick shows up, turns off his car before getting out with the flashlight and his rifle looking for him. He walks away and they climb back up only to realize he took the car keys with him. Liz tells Christy that he must have more cars because of all the keys she has and wants to go back, but Christy doesn't want to go out of fear. I mean, who can blame her? Liz helps her up and we see it's about to be dawn. Then it cuts to Ben finally waking up. Well, not waking up, but he's kind of like stirring, you know. And cuts back to Liz and Christy needs to catch her breath. They need to take a break. Liz tells her to wait here, and Christy doesn't want to be left alone. And she is scared. I mean, I don't blame her. Like, she just went through one of the most traumatic things somebody can go through, and that's called being, naked and tortured, and yes, it's just bad all around. But he's gonna catch her again, and Lizzie assures her that he won't, and that she'll be quicker on her own to get the car. They go back and forth a bit, but Liz gets into where he keeps his cars and calls out for Ben quietly, kind of like, Ben, yeah. But she goes in the back and finds other people's belongings. We're talking IDs, family pictures, money, cameras, everything you can think of. But she does find a Swiss Army knife and she grabs it. And she looks at a recording on a camera and sees more people at Wolf Creek that are having car trouble until Mick shows up in his blue F-100. It lastly shows him pouring water in a young girl's cup, saying, "Nothing better than rain coming from the top end." And this young girl, I'm talking young, like at least like 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there. But Liz is shocked and finds their own camera, and Mick's truck is in the background at that gas station for Emu Creek. She finally gets in a car and cranks it on and feels relief until and then Mick stabs her through the seat, going all the way through her stomach. She gets out and then he gets out. And she grabs the Swiss Army knife. And Mick says, "Like your little mate said before, that's not a knife. This is a knife." And then he cuts her fingers off that are holding the knife. She is screaming, and she's holding her hand, and she's trying to back up from him. And he is telling her to settle down. That's not gonna kill you. I got a bullet hole in my neck, and I'm not whinging, am I? Now, I'm gonna have to do something so as you don't try and run out on me, It's a little It's a little trick they used to use in the Vietnam War. So they could take prisoners and they still get the same information out of them, but the little buggers didn't escape. You with me? You with me? And she screams. You see what I mean? And he picks her up and hits her and says, "That's for wrecking me fucking truck, bitch." He proceeds to get behind her and tells her this is called making a head on a stick, and pulls out his bowie and explains, "Once your spine is severed," and he stabs her in the spine and twists the knife around. "That's what you are, eh?" And he holds his arms out wide after dropping her paralyzed body. "Head on a stick." Liz is on the ground, gasping, and Mick wants to know about Christy. Cut to Christy quietly calling out for Liz before she starts running away, and we see the sunrise, and she makes it onto the road going however far barefoot and bloody, and sees a car. She starts waving it down, and the old man puts her in the back seat and goes to the trunk, setting his thermos of coffee on the top of the car, grabs a blanket and a bottle of water, and hears a whiz, and his thermos is now leaking from a bullet hole. Then he gets killed himself by getting shot in the eyeball. Christy is ducked in the back seat. She sits up and looks around. Then we see Mick's point of view through his scope, and she sees the body. Then gets in the driver's seat without the keys and runs back out for the keys and sees a car approaching. She can't get it cranked, and Mick is revving up and takes off after her. Oh wait, no, she does get it cranked. My bad. It takes her a second though. He's now next to her, laughing, waving, sticking his tongue out at her. And she ends up veering him off the road, and she starts laughing again. And is wearing a smile, thinking, she's safe. But he gets out with his rifle, takes aim using the car as support, and shoots out her tire, causing her to flip. He says, "The winner." And he drives up to her, and she is still alive. And she gets out, and she starts to crawl away, and he shoots her in the back. He then walks up and shoots her again, and he puts her body in the trunk and sets the car on fire, and gets back in his car. But cut to Ben waking up and sees a body and a hungry dog in a cage. Ben has nails through his wrists and wire around his arms. He gets free and runs from the underground, then ties up his wrists and starts walking seemingly nowhere. In the open sun, dehydrated and hungry. Night falls and he's cold, but he survives through the night, long enough for this German couple to find him and drive him to get medical attention. He gets flown out, and he is suspected of murder. Their bodies were never found. Disorganized investigations, confusion over location, lack of physical evidence, and unreliability, but Ben was cleared and currently lives in Australia. The last shot we have is Mick walking with his rifle, uh, like in the open sun. The end. Now, a couple things that make this movie so good is one, John Gerard playing Mick Taylor, and two, the three survivors. Okay, because we spent so much time with them before things were risky. Like you really do start to get attached and you start to like them. Now, this is not like the second movie. So the second movie is really a lot of Mick kind of just causing mayhem all over. Like, it's really good. Now, of course, all three end up having a bit of a... All three of their fates are sad. Okay, including Ben, because Ben should not have been suspected of their murder. One of the things that really strikes me, like fear-wise, is Liz's fate of getting paralyzed, and God knows what she went through after that. Probably months of stuff happened to her, and it's awful. Now, like I said, absolutely love this movie. I compared listening to Mick Taylor talk like Hugh Grant from Heretic. Like, I absolutely love when a villain actually talks. And this one is enjoyable because of how sick he is. And John Gerard does a really good job. I can't wait to cover the second movie too. So let's go ahead and cover a little bit of trivia. Unbeknown to the crew, the abandoned mine where they chose to film had actually been the site of the real-life murder of a woman. The filming prompted a protest from locals who erroneously thought the film was about those events. A very eerie coincidence occurred for the second unit crew sent out to get footage of the Wolf Creek crater. Since the location was many hours from any town, the small crew decided to camp out in their car at the site after shooting. During the night, a mysterious stranger showed up in a truck to investigate. The stranger indeed looked very much like the character of Mick Taylor, right down to the rustic truck. The stranger left, but the crew was so spooked that they drove an hour down the road before finally stopping to camp for the night. I love that. At one point during the shooting of the scene where Mick is torturing Christy while Liz looks through the window, director Greg McLean wanted to get a shot of Cassandra's point of view. So he cleared the crew out of the shed in which the scene was being shot, leaving only the two actors inside. When he called action, they began playing the scene. However, after a minute, McLean became convinced that Gerard had gone too far and that Marassi's cries for help were genuine. He burst into the shed only to find both actors stunned at the disruption. Marassi was fine. It had simply been the intensity of her performance which had fooled McLean. Fucking fantastic. Give this woman an award. She was great. There had been no rainfall for 10 years in the area where the backpackers parked their car before setting off for the crater, but it started raining as soon as the crew arrived. In the end, director Greg McLean was happy it rained as it added to the ominous atmosphere of the scene. Oh, there is a lot of trivia. I'm going to cover it all. As it was originally filmed, the scene in which Ben, Liz, and Christy are sitting around the campfire Ben is telling the story about the alien lights was over 7 minutes long and shot entirely in one take, which I kind of just mentioned it, took like 2 seconds and kept going on, so I really did not give that scene its credit. Even though writer-director Greg McLean did not write the role of Mick for anyone in particular, John Jarratt was the first and only actor to audition for the part. Jarratt was well known in Australia at the time as the host of a gardening show, but he was also a recognized actor. McLean invited Jarratt to audition after he had seen him in a play called Dead Heart. Ironically, Jarratt was only working as a replacement for the regular star Brian Brown, who was ill the night McLean attended. Dude, that's insane right there. Hold on now, let me get me a little bit of a drink. Although widely believed that John Jarratt did not bathe during the filming of Wolf Creek, Jarratt himself debunked this rumor in May 2016 on Mornings 2012, stating that the truth was he stopped washing only his arms. The reason behind this was that because the tattoos that were applied in makeup each morning took so many hours to complete, it is easier to not wash them off than continue reapplying them. Okay, that helps. Because I remember hearing the rumor that he didn't shower for 6 weeks before to get into character. I'm like, that's a bit much. According to stars Cassandra McGrath and Kirsty Morassi, the scenes shot on the beach early in the film may look warm on screen, but were actually freezing. It was so cold that for the scene where McGrath runs out into the ocean, all of the crew were behind camera in hats and gloves. According to McGrath, when she got out of the water, she was so cold she literally couldn't remember her own name. That sucks. Oh, this is scary. John Jarratt remained in character between takes. Oh god, I could only imagine. I would love it. I would love it. The director of public prosecutions in the Northern Territory asked the film distributor to delay screening the film until after the trial of Bradley John Murdoch, accused of murdering British backpacker Peter Falconio. Murdoch's trial commenced October 17th, 2005. At around 43 minutes, the sign at the entrance of the old mining company site where the killer takes his victims is actually the name of backpacker murderer Ivan Milat, spelled backward as Navithalam Mining Company. Wow. Really? That's insane. I did not know that. The film was shot by doing a couple of takes, sticking rigidly to the script, then allowing the actors to improvise. Many of the scenes in the final film include the improvised material. For example, the scene between Ben and the mechanic checking out the car, the party scenes, the bit where Ben plays the flashlight after being stranded, and the campfire belching contest scene. In addition, much of Mick Taylor's colorful dialogue was improvised by John Jarratt. Hell yeah. The film was shot entirely chronologically. That's pretty rare. The principal photography of the film was shot entirely handheld. That's also awesome. Cassandra McGrath said that John Jarratt's sinister laugh gave her nightmares. I enjoy it. I love hearing it. Now, if I did hear it behind me when I get in my car to leave for work, oh yeah, I'm terrified. The crater in the film is really in Western Australia, but is spelled Wolf Creek in reality, spelled with an E instead of just wolf. It's spelled wolf with an E. Although the advertising for the film claims it was based on true events, this is not entirely accurate. The film was influenced by the Ivan Milat and Bradley John Murdoch cases, but it was not based specifically on any one event. Excuse me. And the four principal characters are all entirely fictitious. Sorry. Wolf Creek is one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite horror movies. That's awesome. The mine that Mick Taylor takes the backpackers to is called Novithalum, which is Malat Ivan backwards. We already read this, but let's read the rest of this one. Director Greg McLean used details of Australian serial killers like Ivan Milat to bring the character of Mick Taylor to life in an interview. McLean stated he was based on two true killers in Australia. The true story element of it is where he began, in one sense, in the sense that he's a combination of Bradley Murdoch and Ivan Milat, so it's combined elements of those true characters, and then took a lot of Australian archetypal characters and cultural mythology like Crocodile Dundee and Steve Irwin, and wove those characters into a combination to come up with a character. A Guardian article states Ivan Milat actually described the process of severing a spinal cord to create the head on a stick. Mick Taylor talks about it in the movie itself. The film had only a 5-week shooting schedule. The entire project had to be shot within 25 days. Wow. No scenes were written specifically for cloudy or wet weather. Neither was it a directorial decision to have such scenes. The film's shooting schedule was simply so tight that the crew had to film at all times, regardless of conditions. As such, when it was realized that they were going to have to shoot in the rain, the script was hastily rewritten to include references to the fact that it was unexpectedly raining. According to executive producer Matt Hearn, the car that Kesty Morassi rolls in the film still ran despite being wrecked. Indeed, in the making of Wolf Creek 2006, there is a shot of the car being driven after the stunt has been performed. Hell yeah. John Gerard is a method actor and spent weeks living in the Australian desert preparing for the role of Mick Taylor. In addition, he also avoided bathing before shooting so he would have a much more rugged appearance. Furthermore, the idea of Mick to have a creepy laugh was Gerard's own. He says it took him 4 months to get it just right, and he also created a detailed biography for the character, although he wouldn't reveal the details to anyone. Okay. We do get a bit of backstory from Mick Taylor in the first season of the Wolf Creek show. Like towards the end, we do see a bit of his backstory about him being in childhood, his first kill, everything like that. For the scene where Liz and Christy hide from Mick after pushing the truck over the cliff, Cassandra McGrath and Kesty Morassi were in a harness clinging to the side of an actual cliff. Additionally, director of photography Will Gibson was also put in a harness to capture the scene. The lightning during the scene where Liz, Ben, and Christy see Mick's truck approach was real as a thunderstorm was blowing into the location. At around 1 hour and 15 minutes, the collection of victim memorabilia that Liz finds includes numerous photographs of Greg McLean's family and friends. The first week of the production was dedicated entirely to shooting the opening traveling footage, all of which was shot on a single stretch of highway. Hell yeah. Nathan Phillips designed the tattoo seen on his arms in the film himself. Originally, he wanted them to be much bigger, but Greg McLean asked him to tone them back. In the USA, the 1.38 million production initially made over 15.8 million. I'm so glad. I'm really glad that succeeded. A press release for the film headlined with Wolf Creek, highest grossing R-rated film in Australian history. This film, Greg McLean's debut feature, became Australia's highest grossing R rated film, having surpassed the record previously held by Chopper from year 2000, with a box office achievement of 5 million. Composer, I do not know how to say that, like Francois Tataz, maybe? I'm sorry. Based parts of the film's music score off of an old funeral march tune, giving it a slower tempo for even more moodiness. In Melbourne, the capital city of Victoria, Australia, its Moonlight Cinema confirmed that their screening of this movie attracted their largest audience ever for an Australian film in the 11 years it had been running. More than 2,700 people packed the park, adding the picture to the list of only a few sellout sessions, most of which are scheduled on Valentine's Day. Director Greg McLean originally wanted to shoot the film on mini DV, but director of photography Will Gibson persuaded him to shoot it on HD instead, as it was felt that HD would capture more of the background landscape than mini DV would. Mick Taylor's long-range sniper rifle seen during the infamous road scene appears to be a Tikka 595 and .308 caliber. It is not the Remington seen earlier, noted by the stock and magazine, and the impressive distance the shot is fired from. Seems Mick uses a .22 to toy with victims, but a more serious sniper rifle for hunting victims. Its appearance is quite accurate for the film. Tikkas are popular in Australia along with Sakkos. According to director Greg McLean, the film is full of subtle hints that all is not going to turn out well for the characters. For example, during the title sequence, there is a shot of a map with Broome circled, written just to the right circle is DI. I guess meaning die, I don't know. According to director Greg McLean in the work print, the party scenes lasted for over half an hour before being cut down. I would watch it too. The film is considered an I'm going to enjoy saying this Ausploitation Australian exploitation picture. The film is included on Roger Ebert's most hated list. I don't know who Roger Ebert is, but fuck him. So, Greg McLean originally wanted John Jarratt for the role of Mick Taylor, even though other actors were considered for the part. Oh well, I mean, hell, I think John Jarratt makes the character. I do not think I could see anybody else playing him the way that John Jarratt does, especially when you are giving John Jarratt the credit of making this character have his qualities that so many people love. The later Western Australian film Blame 2010 has been linked to Wolf Creek, according to an ABC local news report published on June 9th, 2011. The location of Wolf Creek, a meteorite crater, is actually located in Western Australia. Cast and crew who worked on both Blame and the South Australian shot Wolf Creek include actress Kirsty Morassi and executive producer David Lightfoot. Okay, this one. Mick Taylor's hunting rifle is a vintage Remington Model 541 rimfire rifle chambered in .22 long rifle, which I'm guessing is the one that he got shot in the neck with. So, at around 18 minutes, star Nathan Phillips shot the footage where Ben talks to the camcorder himself. Good. One of the two films that received an F Cinema Score from audiences upon their release in 2005, along with Alone in the Dark. Fuck them, okay? Wolf Creek is so much better than Alone in the Dark. Mick's van is a 1977 Ford F100, which I would love to own one day. The car driven by Liz and Christy when they pick up Ben is a 1981 Ford Falcon wagon. Mark Mitchell was considered for the role of McTaylor. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he could, but again, I mean, John Gerard made the character what the character is. He put his own spin on it, and I don't think I would want anybody else to play the character. Now, if we did get like a prequel or something, because there are 2 books, I believe there's 2 books, and one of them is about Mick Taylor when he's younger. I would love it if they made that. If they made that into a movie and they had somebody that I want to say somebody John Gerard chooses, I'd love it. There's a racing greyhound named Wolf Creek after the film. Hell yeah. Glenn Robbins was considered for the role of Mick Taylor but turned it down due to scheduling conflicts with TV series Kath and Kim. Imagine choosing Kath and Kim over Wolf Creek. My God. I wonder if he's kicking himself. Jamie Dunn and Peter Moon were considered for the role of Mick Taylor. Okay, how many fucking people were considered for the role? But John Gerard was the only person to actually audition. Okay. Bill Hunter and Ross Higgins were considered to play the role. This is like 6 people. Oh my God, 7 people. Now I'm seeing Russell Gilbert was considered to play Mick Taylor. How many of these are real? The film originated as a standard slasher movie set in the Australian outback. Writer-director Greg McLean wrote it in 1997 but never liked what he'd written. When the Ivan Milat case came to light, it inspired McLean to rewrite the script and introduce the concept of the nice guy who seems to be there to help you out, but is in reality a murderer. At the end, Ben is rescued by a young couple in an orange and white combi van. In the US, this is known as a Volkswagen microbus. This pays homage to the real-life Peter Falconio and Joanne Lees, on whom the story is partly based. Peter obtained an orange and white combi van for the couple's planned trip through the Northern Territory. Peter's body has never been found after Bradley Murdoch was convicted of his murder after Lees testified. Similarly to film's plot, Bradley drove up behind them and indicated they should pull over, saying their van might have an engine problem. Peter accompanied Bradley to the rear and Lees heard a gunshot. That is sad. According to executive producer Matt Hearn, the 2 scenes which prompted most walkouts were the scenes where Mick is torturing Christy and the scene where he cuts Liz's fingers off. Oh well. The film was released on DVD in the United States in both a rated and an unrated version. 2 new scenes were added to the unrated version. A scene where Christy wakes up next to Ben after the party, and a scene where Liz goes down into a well in Mick's yard and discovers decaying bodies. Both of these scenes are contained on the rated DVD as deleted scenes. The body count is 3, which technically isn't true because we know that there's more, but like this is the amount of people that die in the movie. The revolver Liz discovers and loads is a Colt Python. Erroneously, the firearm is actually the larger model, the Colt Anaconda, which the reason why I never mentioned that was because it was not on the version of the movie that I watched. The only way that I could watch it was a streaming service called Philo, and that never happened. Greg McLean makes a cameo as the cop who helps put Ben on the plane at the end. Well, everyone, that has been Wolf Creek. Absolutely fucking love this film. If you have not seen it, please go check it out. Go watch it. I know it may seem like a slow burn, but it really does pay off. And if you think, well, guess what? I don't want to wait 30 something minutes into the film to see the murderer, then I suggest at least giving Wolf Creek 2 a chance, because Wolf Creek 2 really doesn't have anything to do with the first movie. It's just a really wild ride. Like, the action kind of starts immediately. It's so good all the way through. I love every second of it. But thank you guys so much for listening. If you have any suggestions or requests, follow me on Instagram. I hope that you all have a wonderful day. And I hope that you all have a wonderful weekend. I appreciate every single one of you. Bye bye.